Hello students, welcome to my channel. This is the second lecture from chapter Red Blood Cell and Bleeding Disorders. Okay. In the last lecture, we have done Introduction to Anemia. Okay. In that lecture, I have told you about the basics of anemia and the classification of anemia. Okay. Today, we are starting a microcytic hypochromic anemia. Okay. And in that, we will do iron deficiency anemia. Okay, as I have told you that what is anemia? Anemia. Anemia is defined as a reduction of total circulating red cell mass below normal limits. And due to the anemia, the oxygen carrying capacity of the blood is reduced. That lead to tissue hypoxia. Okay, and then the patient present with the constitutional signs and symptoms. For example, the most common is the pallorness. Okay, the patient appears pallor, then fatigue, easy fatigability. Okay, and then weakness, jaundice. These are all the features that we see in an anemic patient. Anemia is classified on multiple bases. Okay, here we are discussing anemia, classification of anemia on the basis of MCV. On the basis of MCV, anemia is divided into three types. First, if the MCV is below 80, it is microcytic hypochromic anemia. If the MCV is in the range of 80 to 100, it is normocytic normochromic anemia. And if the MCV is above 100, it is macrocytic anemia. Okay, so on the basis of MCV, anemia is divided into three types. So here in today's lecture, we are starting first type of anemia, which is microcytic hyperchromic anemia, in which MCV is below 80 femtoliters. Okay, what is MCV? Mean corpuscular volume. Okay, the average volume of the red blood cell is called MCV. There are These are the five types of microcytic hypochromic anemia. First, iron deficiency anemia. Second is thalassemia, sideroblastic anemia, anemia of chronic disease, and the last is lead poisoning. These all five conditions lead to which type of anemia, causes which type of anemia? Microcytic hypochromic anemia. Okay, so in today's lecture, we will discuss one of the microcytic hypochromic anemia, which is iron deficiency anemia. Okay, so let's start iron deficiency anemia from Robbins and Cotran. It is on the page 649. This is iron deficiency anemia. Okay, iron deficiency anemia comes in the category of microcytic hypochromic anemia. Okay, iron deficiency anemia is the most common form of anemia worldwide. Okay, it is the most common form of anemia worldwide, and it is the most common form of anemia worldwide. It can be due to the deficiency, dietary lack of iron. Okay, or it can be due to the defective absorption of iron, or it can be due to the excessive loss of iron from the body. Okay, there are multiple causes of iron deficiency anemia. Deficiency of iron is the most common nutritional disorder in the world and results in a clinical signs and symptoms that are mostly related to inadequate hemoglobin synthesis. As we know, iron is a very important component of hemoglobin, and hemoglobin is the protein that carries oxygen towards the tissues. Okay, so hemoglobin is composed of heme and globin, and heme is composed of iron and protoporphyrin. So iron is the important component of important component in the synthesis of hemoglobin. When there is a deficiency of iron, there will be inadequate hemoglobin synthesis. When there is inadequate hemoglobin synthesis, this lead to the inadequate oxygen carrying capacity of the blood, and inadequate transport of oxygen towards the tissues, and that lead to anemia. Okay, although the prevalence of iron deficiency anemia is higher in developing countries. Why the prevalence of iron deficiency anemia? It is the most common form of anemia worldwide, we know that, but it is more prevalent in the developing countries than in the developed countries because of the poverty, because of the dietary lack of iron, because of the decreased absorption of iron from the GIT. This form of anemia is common in the United States, particularly in toddlers, adolescent girls, and women of childbearing age. The factors underlying the iron deficiency differ somewhat in various population groups and can be best considered in the context of normal iron metabolism. So, iron deficiency anemia can be seen in any age group, but there are certain age group which are most important, and in those age group there are higher chances of the iron deficiency anemia. That means that we see iron deficiency anemia in these age groups. For example, which age groups? For example, in the newborn, okay, um toddlers, young adults, okay, that means adolescents, okay, and then women of the childbearing age, those women which are pregnant, or those women which those lactating women, okay. So it is more common in these age groups, iron deficiency anemia, okay. And if you see an iron deficiency anemia in patient above 50 years of age, then you should keep that in your mind, that this iron deficiency anemia must be due to, not must be, but there are chances, more than 50% chances, that this iron deficiency anemia is due to is due to underlying um, underlying um, polyp in the colon, or the carcinoma in the colon, okay. This is very important thing that you should remember. Now let's talk about how iron enters in our body, how it is metabolized, where it is stored. Okay, iron metabolism. The normal daily Western diet contains about 10 to 20 milligram of iron, most in the form of heme contained in animal products, with the remainder being inorganic iron in vegetables. So, in our diet, for simple, in our diet we take two types of iron in the iron in two forms. First is the heme iron, and second is the non-heme iron. Heme iron is the organic iron, and non-heme iron is the inorganic iron. Which food contain the heme iron? The animal products contain the heme iron, and the non-animal products, vegetables, contain the inorganic form of iron, which is the non-heme iron. So there are two forms of iron, heme and the non-heme iron, which we take in our diet. Heme iron from the animal products, and the non-heme iron from the vegetables. Okay, about 20% of heme iron, in contrast to 1 to 2% of non-heme iron, is absorbable, so the average Western diet contains sufficient iron to balance fixed daily losses. The total body iron content is normally about 2.5 gram in women and as high as 6 gram in men. Okay, and can be divided into functional and storage iron. Let's consider from the very basic. We are taking both the animal products in our diet and the vegetable products, okay. So that means we are taking heme iron as well as non-heme iron, okay. When we take that heme and non-heme iron in our diet, that heme and non-heme iron enters in our body, and in our body iron is present in two forms. That iron which we take in our diet, when which when enters in our body, is present in two forms. First is the functional iron, in the functional form, and second is the storage form. Functional form, functional form means the functional form means the iron which is working in our body in the form of protein. For example, hemoglobin is the very important functional iron, okay. And storage form of iron is the ferritin and hemosiderin. These are the storage forms of iron which is which is present in the stored form, okay. About 80% of the functional iron is found in hemoglobin, okay. Other 20% includes myoglobin, and iron containing enzymes such as catalase and cytochromes contain the rest, okay. The storage pool represented by hemosiderin and ferritin contains about 15 to 20% of total body iron. The major sites of iron storage are the liver and mononuclear phagocytes. Healthy young females have smaller stores of iron than do males, primarily because of the blood loss during menstruation, and often develop iron deficiency due to excessive losses or increased demands associated with menstruation and pregnancy, respectively. So in the diet, we take two types of iron, heme and the non-heme iron. Heme iron, non-heme iron, which when enters in our body is present in two forms versus the storage form, which includes ferritin and hemosiderin, which contributes about 10 to 20% of iron, and other 80% is the hemoglobin and myoglobin and cytochromes. Okay, hemoglobin is the most important functional iron, functional form of iron. Okay, iron in the body is recycled between the functional and the storage pools. It is transported in the plasma by an iron binding glycoproteins called transferrin, which is synthesized in the liver. In normal individuals, transferrin is about one third saturated with iron, yielding serum iron levels that average 120 microgram per deciliter in men and 100 microgram per deciliter in women. The major function of plasma transferrin is to deliver iron to cells, including erythroid progenitors, which requires iron to synthesize hemoglobin. Erythroid precursors possess high affinity receptors for transferrin that mediate iron import through receptor mediated endocytosis. We will talk about this paragraph in few seconds. Okay, here they are talking about the transferrin, which is an iron binding protein. Okay, now this is a very important table that is showing two forms of iron present in our body. First is the functional, second is the storage. Functional form of iron includes hemoglobin, myoglobin, enzymes, for example, catalase, and storage form of iron include ferritin and hemosiderin. Okay, moving forward, free iron is highly toxic, and it is therefore important that storage iron be sequestered. This is achieved by binding of iron in the storage pool to either ferritin or hemosiderin. Ferritin is a ubiquitous protein iron complex that is found at highest levels in the liver, spleen, bone marrow, and skeletal muscles. In the liver, most ferritin is stored within the parenchymal cells. The other in other tissues such as spleen and the bone marrow, it is found mainly in the macrophages. Hepatocyte iron is derived from the plasma transferrin, whereas storage iron in macrophages is derived from the breakdown of red cells. I will explain all this with the very important diagram which is coming in the next page. Okay. Intracellular ferritin is located in the cytosol and in lysosomes, in which partially degraded protein shells of ferritin aggregate into hemosiderin granules. I think we should discuss the diagram with it. Okay. So this is the very important diagram which will clear all the concept about the iron metabolism. So in our diet, we have taken two types of iron, heme iron and the non-heme iron. Heme iron, from the mouth, it enters into the, this is the GIT lumen. Okay, it enters the GIT lumen. Okay, and we know that iron absorbed from the duodenum. So this is the duodenal side of the GIT. Okay, so we have taken iron heme form and the non-heme form. Heme iron, which is the organic iron, is directly absorbed through the heme transporter, directly enters into the epithelial cell, duodenal epithelial cell. Okay, this is the heme iron. The non-heme iron, in contrast to heme iron, non-heme iron cannot be directly entered into the duodenal epithelial cell. So, duodenal cytochrome B enzyme converts this non-heme iron, which is the oxidized form of iron, into the reduced form of iron, Fe3 plus to Fe2 plus, and then this Fe2 plus form of iron absorbed through the transporter called the divalent metal transporter 1. Okay, this is the non-heme iron and this is the heme iron. Both non-heme and the heme iron is stored, some of these heme and non-heme iron stored in the form of transferrin, or in the form of ferritin, sorry. Okay, in the form of ferritin, which is the storage form of iron, and some of these non-heme and the heme iron is transported through the ferroportin transporter 1 from the duodenal epithelial cell into the plasma. Here, this Fe2 plus form of iron is again converted into Fe3 plus form of iron, and then it enters into the blood where the iron binding protein called transferrin binds this iron and then transport this iron to the sites where the iron is needed. It is transported to the liver. It is also transported to the bone marrow for the erythroid precursors, because iron is required in the bone marrow in the bone marrow. Why the iron is required in the bone marrow? Because the erythroid precursor cells required iron for the synthesis of RBCs. They require iron, so iron is transported to the liver as well as to the erythroid bone marrow. Okay, so here they have talked about the transferrin. Transferrin is an iron binding protein. Let's see what you were saying. Iron in the body is recycled between functional storage pools. It is transported in the plasma by iron binding protein called transferrin. This transferrin is the iron binding protein which transfers this iron to the liver and to the erythroid precursors, which is synthesized. This transferrin is synthesized in the liver. In normal individuals, transferrin is about one third saturated with iron, yielding serum iron levels that average 120 microgram per dl in men and the 100 microgram per dl in women. The major function of plasma transferrin is to deliver. What is the this transferrin protein is called the iron binding protein that transfers, that is synthesized. This transferrin is synthesized in the liver, and the function of this transferrin is to deliver iron to the cells, which cells including erythroid precursors, which require iron to synthesize hemoglobin, and they also transfer this iron to the liver. Erythroid precursors possess high affinity receptors for transferrin that mediate iron import through receptor mediated endocytosis. Here they have talked about ferritin. Okay, ferritin. Yes, ferritin binding of ferritin is the storage pool of iron. Either iron is stored in the body in two forms, either in the form of ferritin or in the form of hemosiderin. Major storage form of iron is ferritin, not hemosiderin. Okay, ferritin. What is ferritin? It is a ubiquitous protein iron complex that is found at highest levels in the liver. This ferritin storage form of iron is present. Highest levels are found in the liver, spleen, bone marrow, and skeletal muscles. In the liver, most ferritin is stored within the parenchymal cells. In other tissues such as the spleen and bone marrow, it is found mainly in the macrophages. In the liver, it is stored in the parenchymal cells, and in the other tissues, it is stored in macrophages. Okay, hepatocyte iron present in the liver is derived from plasma transferrin, whereas storage iron in macrophages is derived from the breakdown of red cells. Intracellular ferritin is located in the cytosol and in lysosomes, in which partially degraded protein shells of ferritin aggregate into hemosiderin granules. Iron in hemosiderin is chemically reactive and turns blue black when exposed to potassium ferrocyanide. So, hemosiderin is another storage form of iron. The iron present in the iron in hemosiderin is chemically reactive. It is the reactive form of iron and turns blue black. This iron turns into blue black when exposed to potassium ferrocyanide. When iron in the hemosiderin is exposed to the potassium ferrocyanide, it converts into which color? Blue black, which is the basis for Prussian blue stain. Prussian blue stain. With normal iron stores, only trace amounts of hemosiderin are found in the body, principally in macrophages in the bone marrow, spleen, and liver, most being stored as ferritin. I have told you most of the storage form of iron is in the form of ferritin, not in the form of hemosiderin. In iron overloaded cells, most iron is stored in hemosiderin. Okay, because plasma ferritin is derived largely from the storage pool of body iron, its level correlates well with the body iron stores. In iron deficiency, serum ferritin is below 12 microgram per liter, whereas an iron overload values approaching 5,000 microgram per liter may be seen. Of physiologic importance, the storage iron pool can be readily mobilized if iron requirement increase, as may occur after loss of blood. So most of the storage form of iron is in the form of hemosiderin normally, and a very few amount of iron stored in the form of hemosiderin. Okay, sorry, and they have also told that ferritin is a storage form of iron, and this ferritin is very correlated with the serum level of iron. If the serum level of iron is very low, then the ferritin levels also goes down. If the iron deficiency anemia, for example, if the serum iron level goes down, the serum ferritin level also goes down. If in some cases the serum iron level goes up, the serum ferritin level also goes up. Okay, so um, serum ferritin is the best initial test for the diagnosis of iron deficiency anemia, serum ferritin is the best lesion test. Okay. Iron is both essential for cellular metabolism and highly toxic in excess, and total body iron stores must therefore be regulated meticulously. Iron balance is maintained by regulating the absorption of dietary iron in the proximal duodenum. There is no regulated pathway for iron excretion, which is limited to the 1 to 2 microgram milligram lost each day through the shedding of mucosal and skin epithelial cells. In contrast, as body iron stores increase, absorption falls, and vice versa. In this paragraph, they are saying that excess amount of iron in the body is toxic, and very less amount of iron in the body also lead to iron deficiency anemia. So level of iron in the body should be regulated, and this regulation of iron occurs at the site of GIT. We know that the iron is absorbed from the duodenum. So the regulation of iron absorption, um, regulation of body level of iron in our body is maintained at the level of GIT, where the iron is where the iron is absorbed. Okay. Okay, if there is a large amount of iron is present in our body, then the absorption will be reduced, or and there will be the shedding of the epithelium. Or if there is a less amount of iron is present in our body, then there will be large amount of absorption of iron. Okay, this chart is also very important. First, this is the we have taken iron in our diet, then iron is absorbed from the intestine. Which level of intestine? It is absorbed from the duodenum, then it passes into the plasma. In the plasma, it is bound to the transferrin, which is an iron binding protein, which is synthesized in the liver. Okay, transferrin is coming from the liver. Okay, then this iron binding protein transferrin takes iron to the marrow erythroid precursor, where it is required for for the synthesis of hemoglobin, and it is for the synthesis of hemoglobin. And then in the synthesis of hemoglobin, and this plasma iron transferrin also takes iron to the skin, gut, and endometrium. And from here, some of the iron is lost from the skin, from the shedding of the gut, and from the endometrium in the form of menstruation. Daily, daily loss of iron is 1 to 2 milligram per day. Okay, and this iron is also is iron is going to the marrow erythroid precursor for the synthesis of hemoglobin. It is also going to the liver, where it is stored in the liver parenchyma cells, or also into the um, phagocytes in the spleen and bone marrow. Okay. Iron metabolism, iron absorbed from the gut is bound to the plasma transferrin and transported to the marrow, where it is delivered to developing red cells and incorporated into hemoglobin. Mature red cells are released into the circulation, and after 120 days, we know that the life of RBCs is 120 days. After 120 days, RBCs undergo degradation. Are ingested These RBCs after 120 days. These RBCs are ingested by the macrophages, primarily in the spleen, liver, and bone marrow. Here, iron is extracted from the hemoglobin and recycled to the plasma transferrin. At equilibrium, iron absorbed from the gut is balanced by the losses in shed keratinocytes, enterocytes, and in women from the endometrium in the form of menstruation. Okay. Now, this whole paragraph is talking about this diagram. I think which diagram? Um, this diagram. Okay. Let me read out it. The pathways responsible for the absorption of iron are now understood in reasonable detail and differ partially for non-heme and the heme iron. Luminal non-heme iron is mostly in the form of ferric state and first must be reduced to ferrous state by ferrireductases such as beta B cytochromes and STEAP3. Fe2 ferrous iron is then transported across the apical membrane by divalent metal transporter. The absorption of non-heme iron is variable and often inefficient, being inhibited by substances in the diet that bind and stabilize Fe3 iron and enhanced by substances that stabilize Fe2 iron. So if iron absorption can be inhibited by some substances that maintain this Fe3 form of iron, and iron absorption can be enhanced by those substances that convert Fe3 iron into Fe2 form of iron, ferrous form of iron, because we know that iron is absorbed in the form of Fe2 form, ferrous form, not in the ferric form. So those substances that increase the conversion of ferric iron into ferrous iron will ultimately increase the absorption of iron. Okay. Frequently, less than 5% of dietary non-heme iron is absorbed. In contrast, about 25% of the heme iron derived from the hemoglobin, myoglobin, and other animal proteins are absorbed. Heme iron is moved across the apical membrane into the cytoplasm through the transporters that are incompletely characterized. Here, it is metabolized to release Fe2 iron, which enters a common pool with the non-heme iron. Iron that enters the duodenal cells can follow one of the two pathways. I have shown here one of the two pathways. Okay, either the heme iron and non-heme iron, both of these can go one of the two pathways. Either they incorporate in the form of ferritin, or either they go across the ferroportin into the plasma. Okay, can follow one of the two pathways: transport to the blood for or storage as mucosal transport to the blood, or storage as mucosal iron. This distribution is influenced by body iron stores. Ferrous iron destined for the circulation is transported from the cytoplasm across the basolateral enterocyte membrane by ferroportin. This process coupled to the oxidation of Fe2 iron to again the ferric form of iron, which is carried out by iron oxidases, hapistin, and celluloplasmin. Newly absorbed ferric form of iron binds rapidly to the plasma protein transferrin. First, in the diet, we have taken the ferric form of iron, Fe3. Then this ferric form of iron before absorption from the duodenum is converted into ferrous form, Fe2 plus, and then enters into the duodenal epithelial cells. Again, when these Fe2 plus form of iron, ferrous form of iron, passes through the basolateral side of the epithelium, again this ferrous form again converts into ferric form, Fe3 plus, and then this ferric form is bind to the transferrin, and then transported then transport through the plasma into to the other sides. Okay. Newly absorbed Fe3 binds rapidly to the plasma transferrin, which delivers iron to the red cell progenitors. Both divalent metal transporter 1 and ferroportin are widely distributed in the body and are involved in iron transport in other tissues as well. For example, divalent metal transporter 1 also mediates the uptake of functional iron derived from the endocytosed transferrin across lysosomal membranes into the cytosol of red cell precursors in the bone marrow for the synthesis of hemoglobin, and ferroportin plays an important role in the release of storage iron from the macrophages. Okay. Iron absorption is regulated by, this is very important point, this is very important paragraph. Absorption of iron from the duodenum is regulated by hepcidin. What is hepcidin? A small circulating peptide that is synthesized and released from the liver in response to increase in intrahepatic iron levels. When the level of iron in the liver is increased, when when the level of iron in the liver is increased, this is sensed by the hepcidin, and then hepcidin, a protein, is released from the liver. When the level of iron in the liver is increased, then this protein hepcidin is released from the liver, and this hepcidin inhibits the absorption of iron from the duodenum. As I have told you that absorption of iron is regulated at the level of GIT. Okay, so when the level of iron in the liver is increased, this hepcidin is released from the liver, and this hepcidin go to the GIT, and this hepcidin protein inhibits the absorption of iron from the duodenum. Uh, Hepcidin inhibits iron transfer from enterocyte to the plasma by binding to ferroportin and causing it to be endocytosed and degraded. As a result, as hepcidin levels rise, iron becomes trapped within duodenal cells in the form of mucosal ferritin and is lost as these cells are slaughtered. Thus, when the body is replete with iron, high hepcidin, high hepcidin levels inhibit its absorption into the blood. Conversely, with low body stores of iron. When the level of iron in the body is low, when the level of iron in the liver is low, hapsidin synthesis fails, and there will be less synthesis of hapsidin. There will be less release of hapsidin from the liver, and in turn, hapsidin will not inhibit ferroportin protein, and then iron can easily be absorbed from the enterocytes into the blood, and this in turn facilitates iron absorption. By inhibiting ferroportin, hapsidin not only reduces iron uptake from enterocyte but also suppresses iron release from the macrophages, because ferroportin, this protein, this protein which helps in the absorption of iron from the enterocyte. This ferroportin is not only present in the duodenum, it is also present in the macrophages. So hapsidin inhibits ferroportin both in the duodenum as well as in the macrophages. So when hapsidin blocks ferroportin in the duodenum, it inhibits the absorption of iron from the duodenum. And when hapsidin inhibits ferroportin in the macrophages, it inhibits release of iron from the macrophages. Okay, which are important source of iron that is used by the erythroid precursors to make hemoglobin. This, as we shall see, is important in the pathogenesis of anemia of chronic disease. Okay, we will see that in the anemia of we will talk about hapsidin in a very detail in the anemia of chronic disease. Okay, so here they are showing this hapsidin. This protein is coming from the liver, and when the level of iron is very high in the liver, this hapsidin is released, and this hapsidin inhibits ferroportin. This purple protein, inhibits ferroportin, and when the ferroportin is inhibited, iron cannot be absorbed. Okay, and this hapsidin also inhibits ferroportin in the macrophages and inhibits the release of iron. Okay, so this is very important point to remember. Now, alterations in hapsidin have a central role in disease involving disturbance of iron metabolism. This is illustrated by following examples. Okay, these are all the examples that are showing diseases related to hapsidin. Okay, as will be described subsequently, the anemia of chronic disease, perhaps more accurately referred to as anemia of chronic inflammation. Anemia of chronic disease is also known as anemia of chronic inflammation. We will discuss that anemia of chronic disease in our upcoming lectures. Okay, for now, let's read what they are saying. Is caused in part by the inflammatory mediators that increase hepatic hapsidin production. So, in a brief discussion, anemia of chronic disease is also called anemia of chronic inflammation. In anemia of chronic inflammation, inflammatory mediators increase the hapsidin synthesis in the liver, and we know the work of hapsidin, what hapsidin can do. Okay, a rare form of microcytic anemia is caused by mutations that disable TMPRSS6, a hepatic transmembrane serine protease that normally suppress hapsidin production when iron stores are low. So here they are talking about a rare form of microcytic anemia, which is caused by the mutation of this protein, a hepatic transmembrane serine protease that normally suppress hapsidin production. Okay, when iron stores are low, affected patients have high hapsidin levels. Affected patients will have a high hapsidin level because of the mutation of this hepatic transmembrane serine protease that normally inhibit hapsidin, and when there is a mutation of this protein, hapsidin levels will go up, okay, resulting in reduced iron absorption and failure to respond to iron therapy. Conversely, hapsidin activity is inappropriately low in both primary and secondary hemochromatosis, a syndrome caused by systemic iron overload. So, in the systemic iron overload, when the iron level is very high in our plasma in the blood, so there will be reduced synthesis of hapsidin from the liver. Secondary hemochromatosis can occur in disease associated with ineffective erythropoiesis such as beta thalassemia, major, and myelodysplastic syndromes. Through incompletely understood mechanism, ineffective erythropoiesis suppresses hepatic hapsidin production even when iron stores are very high. Even when the iron stores are very high in the secondary hemochromatosis, and even when the iron stores are very high, hapsidin synthesis should be increased, but hapsidin synthesis is decreased. Okay, now, what is the etiology? Iron deficiency can result from, what is the etiology? What are the causes of iron deficiency anemia? What are the causes of iron deficiency? Okay, iron deficiency can result from dietary lack. Number second, it can be due to impaired absorption. Number third, it can be due to increased requirement, or it can be due to chronic blood loss. These are the four major causes of iron deficiency in our body. To maintain a normal iron balance, about 1 milligram of iron must be absorbed from the diet every day. Because only 10 to 15% of ingested iron is absorbed, the daily iron requirement is 7 to 10 milligram for adult men and 7 to 20 milligram for adult women. Because the average daily dietary intake of iron in the Western world is about 15 to 20 milligram, most men ingest more than adequate iron, whereas many women consume marginally adequate amounts of iron. The bioavailability of dietary iron is important as the overall content. Heme iron is much more absorbable than inorganic iron, the absorption of which is influenced by other dietary contents. We have talked about this many times. Absorption of inorganic iron is enhanced by ascorbic acid, citric acid, amino acids, and sugars in the diet, and inhibited by tannates such as found in tea, carbonates, oxalates, and phosphates. Absorption of the inorganic iron is enhanced by the acids, an amino acid, and sugars, and the absorption of inorganic iron is inhibited by tannates, carbonates, oxalates, and phosphates. Okay, dietary lack is rare in developed countries, where on average about two-thirds of the dietary iron is in the readily absorbed heme form provided by the meat. The situation is different in developing countries, where food is less abundant and most iron in the diet is found in plants in the poorly absorbable inorganic form. Dietary iron inadequacy occurs in even privileged societies in the following groups. Okay, so we have talked about this, that majority of the cases of iron deficiency anemia are found in the developing countries, not in the developed countries, because most of the diet of the developed country is organic diet, meat. Okay, they take heme form of iron. Okay, and in the developing countries, most of the diet there is, first of all, there is a deficiency of diet, and the developing countries, that there is a deficiency of diet, and also most of the diet is inorganic. Most of the diet is vegetable and fruits, rather than meat. Okay, and that is why um, they take most of the inorganic form of iron, not the organic form of iron. So uh, there are more chances of iron deficiency anemia in the developing countries, not in the developed countries. Okay, so I have told you that there are certain age groups which are more prevalent, in which there are more chances of iron deficiency anemia than in the as compared to other groups. For example, infants. Infants who are at high risk due to very small amounts of iron in milk. Human breast milk provides only about zero point 0.3 milligram per liter of iron. Cow's milk contains about twice as much iron, but its bioavailability is poor. Okay, so if a newborn below 6 months of taking cow milk, then there are more chances of iron deficiency anemia, because the bioavailability of iron because the bioavailability of iron is low in the cow milk. Okay, in impoverished, which can have suboptimal diets. For example, in the poverty, those who are um, who are poor, and who take the suboptimal diets, they have more chances of iron deficiency anemia. Older adults, which have the restricted diet due to little meat because of limited income and poor dentation and the limited income. Okay, and teenagers who mostly love to eat junk food rather than good food. Okay, so, and also iron deficiency anemia is seen in the adult women because of the menstruation, and this is and also seen in the women of childbearing age, for example, pregnant women and the lactating women. Okay, impaired absorption is found in sprue. Other causes of fat malabsorption, steatorrhea, and the chronic diarrhea. Gastrectomy impairs iron absorption by decreasing the acidity of proximal duodenum, which enhances uptake, and also by increasing the speed of. So I have told you that iron deficiency anemia can be due to the dietary lack of iron. Okay, can be due to the dietary lack of iron. So if a person is taking less amount of iron in the diet, okay, or there can be increased impaired absorption. So here they are talking about the impaired absorption. Impaired absorption is found in sprue, other causes of fat malabsorption, steatorrhea, and chronic diarrhea. So in chronic diarrhea, in the fat malabsorption syndrome, there will be less absorption of iron from the GIT. There will be a large amount of loss of iron in the stools. Okay, gastrectomy also impairs iron absorption by decreasing the acidity of the proximal duodenum. Okay, because we have talked about it that acidity enhances absorption of iron. So if a patient has undergone a gastrectomy, due to gastrectomy, the acidity of the proximal duodenum will be lost, and which impairs the absorption of iron. And also by increasing the speed with which the gut contents pass through the duodenum. And if the gut contents are passing at very high speed, then there will be less availability of the iron to be absorbed from the duodenum. Okay, this is all about the impaired absorption of iron. There can be increased requirement of iron. Number third point, it can be due to increased requirement. Iron deficiency can be due to increased requirement of iron. Increased requirement is an important cause of iron deficiency in growing infants. Growing infants require large amount of iron. Children and adolescents, as well as premenopausal women, particularly during pregnancy and lactation, they require large amount of the requirement of iron is enhanced, and that can lead to iron deficiency anemia if this requirement cannot be fulfilled. Economically deprived women having multiple closely spaced pregnancies are at exceptionally high risk. Chronic blood loss. Number fourth etiological factor for iron deficiency is the chronic blood loss. Chronic blood loss is the most common cause of iron deficiency in the Western world. In the Western world, most common cause of iron deficiency. In the Western world, there is no SH dietary lack, there is no SH impaired absorption, there is no SH increased requirement. Most common cause of the iron deficiency anemia in the Western world is chronic blood loss. External hemorrhage or bleeding into the GIT, urinary or genital tracts depletes iron reserves. Iron deficiency in adult men and postmenopausal women in the Western world must be attributed to the gastrointestinal blood loss until proven otherwise. Okay, so if in the scenario they're talking about any adult woman or man, postmenopausal woman or man of above 50 years of age in the Western world, you should think about the chronic blood loss. Okay, to prematurely ascribe iron deficiency in such individuals to any other cause is to run the risk of missing an occult blood cancer or other bleeding lesion. An alert clinician investigating unexplained iron deficiency anemia occasionally discovers an occult bleeding source such as cancer and thereby saves a life. So, if if there is an iron deficiency anemia in the postmenopausal woman or the man above 50 years of age, and you are not able to investigate, you are not able to diagnose what is the cause, so you can go towards the cancer of the colon. um, you can discover that on the basis of occult bleeding, fecal occult blood test. Okay, now pathogenesis of iron deficiency anemia, very important. Whatever its basis, either due to dietary lack, either due to impaired absorption, either due to increased demand, or either due to chronic blood loss, all of these produces lead to hypochromic microcytic anemia. Iron deficiency anemia produces which type of anemia? It produces hypochromic microcytic anemia. Hypochromia means there will be less hemoglobin, there will be more pelarness of the red blood cell. We will see that. Okay, hypochromic microcytic RBC size will be small, and hypochromic means more pelar in the center of the RBC. Okay, will be seen in case of hypochromic microcytic anemia. At the outset of chronic blood loss or other states of negative iron balance, reserves in the form of ferritin and hemosiderin may be adequate to maintain normal hemoglobin and hematocrit levels, as well as normal serum iron and transparent saturation. Progressive depletion of these reserves, if these reserves are depleted, first lower serum iron and transparent saturation levels without producing anemia. In this early stage, there is increased erythroid activity in the bone marrow. Anemia appears only when iron stores are completely depleted. and is accompanied by lower than normal serum iron, ferritin, and transferrin saturation levels. Okay, so here one important point which I should discuss with you, that in iron deficiency anemia and the anemia of chronic disease, these both type of anemia which we are discussing under the category of hypochromic microcytic anemia, in the initial stages of these anemia, which anemia, iron deficiency anemia, anemia of chronic disease, they also come in the category of normocytic normochromic anemia. Okay, now the morphology. The bone marrow reveals what we will see in the iron deficiency anemia. The bone marrow reveals a mild to moderate increase in erythroid progenitors, okay, to compensate iron loss. A diagnostically significant finding is the disappearance of stainable iron from macrophages in the bone marrow, which is best assessed by performing Prussian blue stains. Disappearance of stainable iron, okay, on aspirated marrow. In the peripheral blood smear, what we will see in the peripheral blood smear, in the bone marrow we see the disappearance of stainable iron from macrophages by performing the Prussian blue stains. Okay, and in the peripheral blood smear we will see the red cells that are small, microcytic, pale, hypochromic. Okay, and microcytic hypochromic normal red cells with sufficient hemoglobin have a zone of central pallor measuring about one third of the cell diameter. Here, the normal red blood cells, they have hemoglobin in the center of the red blood cell, and that hemoglobin, the center of red blood cell, constitute one third of the cell diameter. Okay, when when there is hypochromic microcytic anemia, this central pallorness, okay, normal red cells with sufficient hemoglobin have a zone of central pallor measuring about one third of the cell diameter. Normal red blood cell, normal red blood cells that have a sufficient hemoglobin. Sorry, I think I should give the wrong concept. Let's review that again. Normal red blood cell that have a sufficient amount of hemoglobin, and that hemoglobin gives red color to the red blood cell. We know that, and due to the presence of sufficient hemoglobin, only the center one third of the red blood cell will be pallor. Is pallor in the normal red blood cell. Okay, central pallor due to the absence of hemoglobin in that area. Surrounding two-third is red because of the hemoglobin in the normal red blood cell, and central one-third is pallor because of the absence of hemoglobin. But in the microcytic hypochromic anemia, this pallorness in the red blood cell is increased. It will be more than one-third because of the less amount of hemoglobin. Okay, we- let me read that again. Normal red blood cells with sufficient hemoglobin have a zone of central pallor measuring about one third of their cell diameter. In established iron deficiency anemia, the zone of pallor is enlarged. Okay, hemoglobin may be seen only in the narrow peripheral rim. Only a small rim of hemoglobin is seen. They are showing here in the figure 14.3. You can see that here. Let's take this as the red blood cell. Okay, you can see this central pallor is more than one third, and only small rim of hemoglobin is present in the periphery. Okay, and the central pallor is increased. That is very important, uh, and you can diagnose iron deficiency anemia on this basis when you see the peripheral blood smear. Okay, poikilocytes in the form of small elongated red cells, pencil cells, is also characteristically seen. So these are the pencil cells. These are the pencil cells. Okay, these are the pencil cells. Okay, so in the peripheral blood smear, you will see the hypomicrocytic, hypochromic red cells, central pallor more than one third, only a small rim of peripheral hemoglobin, and pencil cells. Okay, hypochromic microcytic anemia of iron deficiency, peripheral blood smear. Note the red blood cells containing a narrow rim of peripheral hemoglobin, scattered, fully hemoglobinized cells present due to a recent blood transfusion. Stand in contrast. Okay. Here, let's talk about the clinical features. What we see, symptoms and signs. What signs and symptoms we see in the patients of iron deficiency anemia. As I told you, iron deficiency anemia is the most common form of anemia worldwide. The clinical manifestations of anemia are non-specific and were detailed earlier. In any type of anemia, you see the pallorness to the patient, fatigue, weakness, okay, and exertional dyspnea. Okay, these are all the non-specific features. The specific features related to the iron deficiency anemia are the dominating signs and symptoms frequently relate to the underlying cause of anemia. For example, gastrointestinal or gynecological disease, malnutrition, pregnancy, or malabsorption. In severe and long-standing iron deficiency anemia, depletion of iron containing enzymes in cells throughout the body also causes other changes, including koilonychia. So, specific features related to iron deficiency anemia is the koilonychia. Koilonychia means spoon shaped nails, okay, concave nails, okay, spoon shaped nails. This is a very basic feature you see in the patients of long and severe type of iron deficiency anemia. Alopecia, loss of hair, atrophic changes in the tongue, atrophic changes in the tongue and gastric mucosa, and intestinal malabsorption. Depletion of iron from the central nervous system may lead to the appearance of pica, in which affected individuals consume non-food stuff such as ice, dirt, clay, food ingredients such as flour, and periodically move their limbs during sleep. Iron deficiency anemia can also present with a syndrome called Plummer-Vinson syndrome or Patterson-Brown-Kelly syndrome. Iron deficiency anemia can also seen in the syndrome. It can also be associated with a syndrome called Plummer-Vinson syndrome, also called Patterson-Brown-Kelly syndrome. And Patterson-Brown-Kelly syndrome has a triad of dysphagia, iron deficiency anemia, esophageal valves. Okay. Esophageal valves appear together with the microcytic hypochromic anemia and atrophic glossitis to complete the triad of major findings in the rare Plummer-Vinson syndrome. So the features which are specific related to iron deficiency anemia are the koilonychia, alopecia, atrophic glossitis, angular chelosis, atrophy of the gastric mucosa, and pica. And also iron deficiency anemia is associated with a syndrome called Plummer-Vinson syndrome or Patterson-Brown-Kelly syndrome that is characterized by a triad of dysphagia, iron deficiency anemia, which is microcytic hypochromic anemia, and esophageal valves. Okay, so you can remember Plummer-Vinson syndrome with the mnemonic which is plumber die, plumber die, die, plumber, which reminds you Plummer-Vinson syndrome, die, D for dysphagia, I for iron deficiency anemia, and E for esophageal valves. Okay, the diagnosis of iron deficiency anemia ultimately rests on laboratory studies. We can do for the diagnosis, we can do the complete blood count, which show us decreased hemoglobin, decreased hematocrit, decreased RBC count. Okay, both the hemoglobin and hematocrit are depressed, usually to moderate degree, in association with hypochromia, microcytosis, and modest poikilocytosis. You will see in the CBC. And then you will do the serum ferritin, which is the best initial test for the diagnosis of iron deficiency anemia. The serum ferritin levels are low in iron deficiency anemia. You can also do the serum iron, which is also low in iron deficiency anemia. You will do serum transferrin, which is also reduced, and then you will do the total iron binding capacity, which is elevated. Low serum iron with increased iron binding capacity results in a reduction of transferrin saturation to below 15%. Reduced iron stores inhibit hepcidin synthesis, and its serum levels fall. In uncomplicated iron deficiency, oral iron supplementation produces an increase in reticulocytes in about 5 to 7 days, that is followed by a steady increase in blood counts and the normalization of red cell indices. So, the clinical features which are specific to iron deficiency anemia are koilonychia, pica, alopecia, atrophic changes in the gastric mucosa, atrophic glossitis, angular chelosis, Plummer-Vinson syndrome. Okay, and the diagnosis of iron deficiency anemia includes CBC, which shows us decreased hemoglobin, decreased hematocrit, decreased red cell count, microcytosis, hypochromia, and poikilocytosis. Then we will do serum ferritin, which is the best initial test, and that is serum ferritin is low in iron deficiency anemia, low serum iron, low transferrin saturation, and increased or elevated total iron binding capacity TIBC. Okay, now how we can manage the patients of iron deficiency anemia if the patient is very low, if the patient is infant, Okay, then we can recommend the patient's mother, the mother of an infant, to reduce to reduce the to reduce the cow milk intake. Okay, don't give the cow milk to the patient, to the infant. Okay, and we can also, to all the patients, we can recommend iron supplements. We can recommend that increase their increase the diet which contain iron. Okay, and in the last, we can give, in the very rare cases, we can give the transfusion. We can recommend the transfusion of blood. This is all about iron deficiency anemia. Okay, I hope you guys have understand it very well. Thank you so much for watching my video, and in the upcoming lecture we will do, inshallah, we will cover